So if your shop is as crowded as mine is most of the time, then you look for every opportunity to compress some space. So anytime a tool comes along that can do multiple things, you definitely hop on it. Now this is the xTool M1. Now, not only is it a laser, it's also a cutter. So is it the best tool for saving some space? Well, let's find out. Hey there, Steve here. Welcome back to my shop. Now, anytime xTool reaches out to me and says, we've got something for you to test, I'm absolutely going to say yes, because everything I've seen from them is exceptional. It's always something you're going to want in your shop, and they remain one of the few companies doing any kind of real research in this area. Now, they sent me this xTool M1 about a week ago, and I looked at it, and what it is a dual function unit. It's a 10 watt laser like an xTool D1, so it doesn't have air assist, but it's a full 10 watt laser. Now it also has a cutter, and you can use that cutter to cut vinyls, plastics, craft paper, regular paper, and that makes it a pretty functional unit. So in this video, we're going to have a look at this. So I'll start this video with a bit of a flyover, of course, and the first thing you'll notice about the xTool M1 is it's completely enclosed in a cabinet. And if you're familiar with the rest of the xTool line, you may recognize this as something very similar to an xTool laser box. It used to be called a make block laser box. That's hard to say. I guess that's why they changed the name. But you'll certainly see the family resemblance here. Now, on the front of this laser, all there is a single push button, and that's used to start jobs from xTool Creative Space. And on the back, there's a couple of connectors, a power switch, and some ducting for an exhaust fan to exhaust those fumes out of the inside of the cabinet. Now, speaking of the inside of the cabinet, there's some good innovation there as well. Now, clearly borrowed from the laser box family, the line of CO2 lasers, they took some features, and they're very nice features that to have on something like an xTool M1. The first one is autofocus. And that's not something you find typically on diode lasers. It's a godsend here. It's really nice because you can just plunk your material down, position your job, push the start button, and autofocus happens for you. You don't have to worry about it. Also inside the cabinet is another feature borrowed from the LaserBox family, which is a camera. And it sits up in the ceiling part of the cabinet here. And what it does is every time you close the lid, it takes a snapshot of the workspace. Now, once you have that camera snapshot, what you can do with it in xTool Creative Space is use it to position your project. Maybe you're using material that's been used for maybe a previous project, so it's got a few holes punched in it, and you want to make sure that your project fits. You can use that feature to lay out your project and make sure that it's going to actually fit on the material. It works really well. And you're definitely going to want to use it, even though you can turn that feature off if you just want a white background in Creative Space to lay out. You can do that as well. So definitely one of the coolest features here is this ability to automatically lay things out, and it uses AI to look at the workspace and determine how things should be placed. So I have my logo here, and I've just thrown down a bunch of these wooden tags they've provided. And if I scale my logo down so it fits on that badge, and we'll try and blow it up a little bit here. And we can do micro placement as well. So I'll move it up a bit. And so I have it on one that looks, the closest to straight. Now I can use this Smart Fill option, and watch what this does. It lays everything out automatically regardless of what random position they're placed on the workspace. This is by far the coolest feature ever. I have spent endless hours doing business cards and tweaking alignment. This just made that job so much easier. So kudos to xTool's design team for making all of this happen. This is by far the best feature of any laser I've seen. So now you might be thinking with an enclosed cabinet like this, you might be stuck to a certain thickness of material you can use. Well, the good news is you can actually remove the bottom of the M1 and just drop it on top of whatever you're trying to engrave, and it works fantastic. So just removing the bottom will give you about a ½ an inch of extra height, but xTool in the box provides these wooden riser blocks, and they will give you 3 different fixed heights of varying levels, and you basically put them under the feet of the laser, and it will raise the entire cabinet by that much. It's a really nice touch. Now the last feature I want to talk about is actually the most important feature of the M1, because without it this would just be another diode laser, and that's the blade cutter. Now I showed you earlier in the video where the blade sits relative to the output of the laser. It's right underneath there, and you can certainly pull the blade out and put a new blade in if you need to. But that all works in conjunction with a couple of material mats. And the first one is the pinkish colored one, and that's a high grip mat, and that's for materials, for fabric. And it's good if you maybe want to cut a shape out of maybe a piece of denim or something, or anything that's really kind of floppy. It's the perfect surface for that. Now the blue mat is a light grip mat, and that's what you would typically use for most things. That would be for papers and vinyls if you're cutting vinyls. And you can plunk that down in the bottom of the laser. Now there's the difference here between this material mat and say something in it like a Cricut is this one has adhesion on both sides, so you can peel the protective coating off the back and put it on the bottom plate of the laser, and then peel the coating off the front and put your material down and do your blade cutting. Now the one caution I'll make here is if you're using your laser as well, so you're doing a bunch of cutting, you may get some dust or goo stuck to the bottom plate of the laser of the M1, and you really need to make sure that stays clean. Otherwise, any of that stuff will kind of cause the mats to lose their adhesion onto the plate, and you don't want that. So just keep some isopropyl alcohol handy and scrub that bottom plate once in a while, and you should be fine. And before we move on here, just a quick look at some of the results. All in all, pretty nice results. I wasn't quite as impressed with the engraving of the dog photo, but I think it's just settings. I chose automatic settings, and I tend to use manual settings for these sorts of things anyway, so it could just be a setting thing. This material, I mean, it's basswood, so it should work. There's definitely lots of grain in it. It's fine, but I would like it a little bit darker. I cut out a gear. Now, one thing I'll point out, it did a great job actually cutting it out, but one thing you'll notice is there's a bit of kind of smoke and on the edges here, and that's a function of cutting without air assist. I mean, it did a great job considering there is no air assist, but air assist would have eliminated all of that. So hopefully at some point they provide that as an option. I did a stainless steel dog tag here, and I can't even imagine it getting better than that. It turned out really good. So if I can get it not so much in the light. And so dog tag, you saw me cut a big stack of tags with my logo on them using the Smart Fit. That feature works really well. I will say that it works better if things are at least reasonably close to straight. You saw I just threw them on there randomly, and some of them kind of came off at funny angles. They're on the tag, but they're not exactly straight. And then I played with the M1 cutter, and you can see it did a great job. So nice versatile machine. It can do pretty much anything that you'd want if you're starting maybe a small business, or you're doing Christmas decorations or something. This is really a good tool. Now the package that I got, the material pack they sent me, was the premium pack, and it is really impressive. If you're buying one of these, I would recommend getting the premium version of this. It will certainly cost more, but you get just a huge pile of material, and more importantly, you get all of the manual settings for all of those materials. So if you decide, you want to cut your own tags out like this, then you can just cut them out and use their settings for the material. So anyway, that's the results. I'm pretty impressed actually. So we can move on here. All right, so where does this leave us? Well, let's take a look at some of the things that they did really well here. Definitely, it's a nice consolidation of a laser and a blade cutter. It's it's certainly easy to use in that regard, and more importantly, it takes up half the space of the combination of both of those. So if your space is tight, then this might be a good option for you. Next on the list here, there's an excellent materials library. It's well documented. You can go online and look. You can also look at the cards that are provided, and in the software, it also shows you that library, so you can just automatically set things. Speaking of the Creative Space software, definitely it's a really easy piece of software to use. Almost no thought required here. You have your laser plugged in, either USB or Wi-Fi, and it detects it. It just works, and it's not necessarily as good as Lightburn from a pro perspective, but if you're just getting started, or you just want to be versatile and do two things within 5 minutes, you want a laser cut and then do a blade cut, it's the software for you. It works really well. Now on the con side, there's a couple things here, and I led into some of these already. There's no Lightburn support yet, and maybe there never will be. It would be kind of hard to support Lightburn with a blade cutter, so I'm not sure that they will ever support it. So if you're completely married to Lightburn, then maybe you're going to struggle here. Next on the con side here, I noticed the lid gets scratched very easily. The plastic lid, it just seems very soft. I cleaned it a couple of times with a microfiber cloth, brand new microfiber cloth, so it had no previous particles on it, and just wiping it over the surface of the plastic on the lid, and I could see some spider lines, scratches. So if you do buy one of these, be careful of that. It doesn't obviously impact operation, but it looks a bit unsightly. And I mentioned the cutting mats with regard to using them in the laser workspace. If you've been doing a lot of cutting, you could have some grime or sticky bits underneath the mat, and that may impact the durability of the mat in the long term. So keep a bottle of isopropyl alcohol handy to keep the workspace clean when you're switching to mats. Anyway, that's it. In the end, I love this thing. I think it's a great idea from xTool, and it's definitely earned a place in my shop, so you may actually see it in future videos for projects, and hopefully it continues to save me some space. Now, if you are interested in one of these, I'll put an affiliate link down below. There's several variants of this, ranging from a really basic box up to the premium one, which is the one xTool sent me. And that one includes a big material pack and also the RA2 rotary attachment. I didn't show the rotary attachment here, but if you're interested, click up in the corner here and you can go watch the video where I reviewed that. I reviewed it for a CO2 laser, but it works exactly the same here. So before we depart here, there's one last bit of good news from xTool, and that's that the F1 has been funded. The F1 is a Galvo-based IR and diode laser, and it's up on their site now. You can find out about it. I'm hoping that they're nice enough to send me one. I would really like to see one. And if I can get one, I will certainly pass on the opinions to you, and you can decide if you want one as well. Anyway, it's up there, and we'll wind down here. As always, I'll put a video up in the corner. Go watch that, and I'll see you over there. And certainly get out and make your world, and I'll see you next time.